All right, today we are diving into a really powerful and urgent call for peace, one aimed at the Horn of Africa, which is, one of the most historically complex regions on the entire planet. This is a vision for change that's coming from a very unexpected place, and from one man who's really trying to shift the entire conversation.
And it all kicks off with this idea right here. This isn't a general calling his troops to arms. This is a self-described soldier calling for a totally different kind of battle, where the weapons aren't guns, but the pen and thought. It just immediately sets a completely different tone for how we should approach peace.
Now here's what's so fascinating. Where is this message even coming from? Ibrahim Idris isn't broadcasting from the region itself. He's in Denver, Colorado. And from there, he's sending out this series of communications, trying to cut through all that noise of conflict to reach the people and leaders back home.
And his appeal is aimed squarely at the heart of the Horn of Africa. We're talking specifically about these nations: Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Djibouti. I mean, it's a region with such incredible cultural richness, but also, as we know, some really deep, interconnected conflicts. So what's the real problem here? What's the thing that needs to be fixed? Well, Idris gives it a name, a concept that he believes is just fueling this endless cycle of violence. He calls it the shadow of history. Let's unpack what he means by that.
So the shadow of history isn't just about the past. No, it's about how the past is being actively used, or really misused, right now, in the present. It's what happens when leaders dig up these old wounds, these old grievances, not to heal them, but to use them as fuel to get people fired up for these devastating wars that just never seem to end.
And this slide just lays out the choice so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the path of conflict. It's all about these chauvinistic slogans, these fanatical visions, where the only answer is to pick up a weapon. But on the other side, you've got the path Idris is pushing for, one that's built on shared visions, on social and cultural integration, and, again, on raising the pen and thought.
And the cost of choosing that path of conflict? It's just staggering. The youth of the region, its resources, they're literally the fuel for these wars. And all that instability, well, it just opens the door for outside powers to come in and exploit the situation, and the whole cycle of violence just keeps going and going.
Okay, so if the problem is that clear, what's the solution? How do you get out of that shadow? Idris is convinced that the only way out is through dialogue. And that's the foundation for his whole proposal. So the heart of the idea is an intensive joint dialogue. And this is key. It's not about one leader giving a speech or a debate where everyone just shouts over each other. It's about a real conversation that involves everyone, all the political groups, and this is so crucial, the people of the region themselves.
And the immediate goal, the whole point of this dialogue, is to find what he calls common ground, or ardea mushtaraka. Look, this isn't about getting everyone to agree on everything. It's about building a shared foundation, a starting point. From there, the real deep roots of all these conflicts can finally be dealt with, not by outsiders, but by the people of the region, working together.
And the path to get there is laid out pretty clearly in these 4 steps. It's a logical progression, right? First, everybody has to admit just how bad the crisis is. Then, you kick off dialogue at both the national level and the wider regional level. From there, the really hard work of finding that common ground begins, which finally allows you to tackle the root causes. This brings us to the ultimate vision. I mean, what does the future even look like if this path is actually followed? This isn't just about stopping a war, it's about building something totally new and lasting in its place.
Idris uses this incredibly powerful metaphor to capture this whole transformation. It starts with this image, taking the very symbol of war, the rifle, and completely changing its purpose.
And in its place, raise the ears of peace, which is, a clear nod to raising crops like wheat or corn. It's such a beautiful metaphor for turning away from destruction and turning toward cultivation, toward sustenance, toward life. Just a really powerful image for a new start.
To guide this new era, he suggests a simple but really profound motto for the entire region: As-salam wa tanmiya, peace and development. It's a guiding principle that completely shifts the focus away from conflict and toward building something better.
And that model isn't just some empty slogan, right? It has to be supported by these pillars. We're talking about real, sustainable development that actually benefits everyone. Deep social and cultural integration to break down those old barriers, shared visions for the future, and a foundation of justice and mutual respect.
Wow! This quote just perfectly captures the whole idea of integration.
You've got these different nations. They're like separate rivers, each with its own path. But through dialogue and a shared vision, they can all flow together to create something much, much bigger and more powerful, all headed for the same destination, a lasting peace.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe most critical part of this whole message. After laying out the problem, the solution, and this incredible vision, Idris ends with a direct challenge. It's not a conclusion, it's a call to action.
And here it is, the core of that challenge. He's calling on the people of the region to awaken their own power, their own visions, and to stop assuming that somebody else, whether it's their own leaders or some foreign power, is going to do the thinking for them. It's an absolutely powerful call for intellectual and political self-reliance.
And so we end right on that question. It's a question being asked from Denver, Colorado, but it's echoing across Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Djibouti. After decades and decades caught in that shadow of history, whose turn is it to step into the light and think of a new way forward? The question just hangs in the air, doesn't it? Waiting for an answer.